Listen up, nerds. We are here on this beautiful Sunday afternoon talking about nerd shit. I am your host on this beautiful Sunday. I am Crystal. I am a director, showrunner, voice actress, co-founder of the Tales of the Forgotten Network. I do a lot of shit, and we've got a great panel today to talk to you about the Acolyte. We're going to talk about streaming. We're going to talk about TV. It's going to be a very, very informative conversation. We're just going to tell you right off the bat that we enjoyed the Acolyte on varying levels. We don't think it's without its flaws. So if you're one of those racist Acolyte haters, this is not the place for you. This is not the place for you. We don't give a fuck about you. You could just move along. But if you want to have a really intelligent, nuanced, fun discussion about the Acolyte, about what it did right, about what it did wrong, about how we think that streaming is fucking up TV, this is the place for you right now. So we would love to have you join us. My co-hosts today, are the amazing JV. JV, tell everybody a little bit about you.
Yo, what's up? It's your boy JV. Welcome to the first Sunday of the NFL. Guys, it's very, very excited. This is like Christmas in my house.
Oh, is it? Big deal.
At least for me. I mean,
yeah.
for me, my dad, my brother, we just have a very football centric family.
Okay. I want to go to a
so
football
we
game
even
with you,
sent-
JV. That's now my new life goal. Is to go to a
Look,
football
let's
game
go
with you.
to a college game, preferably, because college is
Oh, really?
much more fun than going to a pro game.
Is it really? Okay, I'm gonna take your word
Oh,
for it on
but like the bands, the traditions, it's much more fun.
that. Okay, got it.
Much more
Because
fun.
I've
We
only
will go
ever
to a
been
UT
to
game.
I've only ever been to pro football games, and I've always had a blast.
Yeah, we will go to a UT game.
Okay.
And have a good time. But yeah, here to talk about the Acolyte. Y'all know me. Sometimes I'm into stuff. Sometimes we're talking nerd stuff. And happy to be here with my two friends.
Yeah. Hannah. Fellow co-host today, tell everybody about you.
Hello. I'm Pixel. You can find me on the Discord or the Twitters. I'm co-owning the tail stuff. I'm a sound designer. I'm a linguist. I'm a semi-renewed Star Wars lover, but also a sad one.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very excited to talk about the Acolyte.
Yes. Hannah is also our resident introvert, so you'll always see
Yes, I
amazing
am.
pictures of Hannah. But we always I get really excited when I can get her on podcasts because she always has such insightful, wonderful things to say, and she's a fucking nerd. So
She's great.
Yeah.
She's great.
Yeah, we're very excited. We're very excited Hannah was here. So let's just jump right into this. Let's get it popping. JV, what were your thoughts? Like, just give me a little kind of brief overall. How did you feel about the Acolyte?
So, overall, I liked it. I did think it was kind of a mixed bag in a couple of ways for me. That I'm sure we'll get into. A lot of it was just pacing.
Mm-hmm.
The structure of where some of those episodes went, and I don't want to spoil our discussion too much, but there was just some episodes I would have liked to see like back to back. And also it's just so hard, I think, to tell a story like this if it's either A, not going to be a movie, or two, not going to have longer episodes and more episodes. But overall, I enjoyed it. You as you guys know, and I'll tell the audience, I am a like very casual Star Wars fan. Of course, like all kids, I grew up with it. I've seen all the movies. I've seen many of the shows, and I thought it was just exciting. For me, I didn't read any of the I guess the extended universe is what they're calling it
Mm-hmm.
when Disney bought it in the, I guess whatever it was before, the lore or the legends. So some of the stuff in the show I just had no idea about, and it was fun for me to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought Manny Jacinto was great.
Mm-hmm.
Um, smoking hot.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
um,
This is why these
very
incels are
very
so mad.
popular. Yeah, very popular. Very popular in my house. Very my wife Lisa, she was like visible sweat. Um, so very popular. I love Amanda Stellenberg,
Yeah.
and overall, I think Leslie did a great job. It was just unfortunately, you know,
Mm-hmm.
too short. So a bit of a mixed bag, but overall, I enjoyed it.
Nice. Babe, overall, talk about the Acolyte. Talk about what kind of Star Wars fan you are.
I want to like write the whole of Acolyte kind of a love letter because I didn't like in my childhood I didn't really grow up first with Star Wars. It was more we were more of a Star Trek household.
Mm-hmm.
So I later watched Star Wars like a tiny bit later in my life. So I was still a kid though, but I remember watching them and enjoying them, but I was like meh, like they were cool, like but I didn't have like a major attachment to it. But it wasn't until I got to watch my dad play The Force Unleashed on the PS2 that I got really
That's a good
into
one.
the story of Star Wars. So I
Yeah,
was
that's a
really
good
into
one.
that. And honestly, that was probably the first and last time I got real invested in any like original Star Wars IP with the story. And then like finally the Acolyte came along and it had a bunch of story beats and themes that I never knew I needed in a Star Wars show. Like the a big thing I want to put mention is the who done it format
Mm-hmm.
of how they'll give you like in dialogue they'll say things that you as the viewer at first don't understand or don't make sense to you but clearly make sense to the characters they're saying it to but you don't have context
Mm-hmm.
and the whole pacing and setup of like the first two episodes are just very who done it and
Mm-hmm.
I never knew I wanted that in a Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
So I have
Mhm.
to yeah, that's a big perk I have. So all in all, if I could give Acolyte a big thank you for bringing me back into caring about Star Wars, I absolutely would.
And a lot of fans felt that way, which I think is a really because a lot of fans, and I know a lot of fans right now are very disheartened, and we'll get into that as well. But for those stick with it, y'all. I know it feels
They're
like
trying.
the most loudest, annoying fucking fan base is in charge here, and I don't even think that's it. I think this is more greedy
Mm.
capitalism, and we'll get into that as well. Um, I overall I'm a pretty big Star Wars nerd. Like I got the original trilogy on like VHS. I've got a fucking bunch of like Star Wars geek shit. I wrote a fucking Star Wars audio drama. Like you can't get more fucking nerdy than that. The Star Wars fan fiction I wrote is like 190 fucking pages. Like I'm a fucking nerd. I've read a couple of the books, not too much. I'm mostly a TV show, movie watcher. I hadn't read a lot of like the original stuff. Like I haven't read Thrawn or Heir to the Empire or all that kind of stuff. So I haven't read any of that yet. I still have to finish the Clone Wars. The only reason that I haven't finished the Clone Wars is because it's fucking making me sad. I'm being emotionally abused every episode because you're making me care about these characters that I already love and I know what happens, and I'm depressed. So that's the only reason I haven't fucking finished the Clone Wars. Um,
Damn,
yeah, I know it does. It's making me sad, bro.
that's a hell of a testament to the show, though.
I
That's
know,
a hell of
right?
a
It
testament
is.
to the
It
show.
made me so
So
sad.
good.
It's so good. It is. It's so good. But it's making me like so sad. I want a different ending. I need Disney to do a what if where Anakin and Padme just go off and live a happy life and raise their kids. But the Acolyte. So when like I am Team Sith. I don't give a fuck about these Jedi. So like when the Acolyte first was announced, I was very excited because I was hoping that it was gonna dive deep into like Sith lore and be like hopefully maybe like this dark Sith show. And then we got what we got, and I wasn't mad about it. Like I enjoyed the Acolyte for what it was. I mean, me and Pixel had a great time watching that shit every week. I think my beefs with it are very very light. It comes very 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 much like from JB's coming from like a film critic, more like a lover really of just like TV shows and storytelling and that sort of thing. I think the only episode of the Acolyte that I really had a problem with was the finale. I thought the last episode was a little weird for me. Not listen, Quimir stands. Who's there? Everybody who's shipping Quimir and Osha. That's not what I'm saying. I actually love that ship. y'all weird with your Kylo Ren Ray shipping. I'm gonna just say it. I love y'all. You like what you like, but you a little weird with that one. But Osha and Quamir, I ship that shit. I'm ready. They can hate fuck. I'm ready for it.
I'm with you on that.
Right,
I'm with
right.
you on that.
But yeah, so it was only the finale that I thought had weird beats for it. But my god, the fight scenes in the Acolyte, we managed to rewatch.
Excellent.
Oh my god, yeah, we almost finished binging it because I wanted to rewatch it before we did this, but we only got up to, we didn't get to the
Two
last two
episodes
episodes.
left.
Yeah, we had 2 episodes left, but the fights, my god, they were good. The actor who plays Soul, incredible. Carrie Ann Moss should have been used more. I think that's my only other beef. You got Carrie Ann Moss as a Jedi and she's not in every episode. What the fuck is that all about? But yeah, just overall, I enjoyed the shit out of the Acolyte, and I hope that we see it again in some way, shape, or form. So even if they just rename it, so I don't give a fuck. Call it Rule of Two now because he's got his Acolyte. I don't give a shit. So let's dive in.
Hey,
Yeah, right.
work.
That would work too. So let's get in deeper about this. So what did we think work about the Acolyte before we get into what we think its problems were?
Yeah, I think for me, what worked is I think it's someone who like primarily just watches the movies,
Mm-hmm.
and I've seen a couple of the shows. Um, I thought they introduced some new lore that made me excited to dig, uh, and talk to friends like my buddy Chase, who is just a super hardcore Star Wars guy. Um, and to talk to him and like pick his brain about who the guy in the cave was and what's the
Right.
deal with that. And I thought that stuff was really fun. Um, the fight choreography was great. To some degree, I think it's what like Star Wars has been missing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know not everybody likes this movie, but the Last Jedi,
Mm-hmm.
when that last fight is just so kinetic, and
Yeah.
they brought a lot of that energy to the fights here. I loved seeing not only the lightsaber combat, but just kind of the like that kind of beautiful style that you see um from some Chinese movies. I forget what it's called.
We talking about Crouching
It-
Tiger, Hidden
I think it's
Dragon,
called,
or something else?
yeah, like that style. I think it's called like wushu
Babe, do you
movie
know?
style. I think.
Wu Tang. Hang on.
We can
Let's see.
Google. Internet is free.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Wu Tang ain't nothing to fuck with.
I don't know, right? I know that's right.
But but that style that they had in Crouching Tiger,
Oh,
Hidden Dragon, I think adapting that was really cool.
yeah, Shaolin and Wu Tang.
So yeah, that to add that in and to see some like different fighting styles was cool.
Sure.
And I think the other thing I liked was I thought the casting was great.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I obviously I'm completely discounting anybody who's like racist and
Sure.
sexist and homophobic. Um, but I don't get the gripes with Amanda Stellenberg's um acting.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I might be biased because I've been a fan of hers for a long time, and I
Sure.
I really think that she's a great actress.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I thought that cast was great, and I like the fact that I kind of like the sexiness, the
Yeah.
the idea the idea that um I think the idea that they were like, hey, our audience is grown up, and we can have Star Wars at different levels for people,
Mm-hmm.
and embracing kind of the sexiness of um of those characters, the situation, embracing the like real violence and depth of those situations.
Sure.
That I thought really worked, and kind of a corner I feel like Star Wars has been needing to turn.
Absolutely. I have so many thoughts on that too. Babe, you want to go?
Like, I have so much like small things that I just love about it. And
Mm-hmm.
also
Mm-hmm.
something I didn't know about is the fight scenes were done by the same team that made the hallway scene in Rogue One of Vader ripping up people.
Oh,
They were
let's
Explains a lot.
fucking go.
That explains a whole bunch.
That was the right team to
but,
bring because that hallway scene
Yeah.
made you real scared of Darth Vader.
mhm. But yeah, there's like it's hard with the Acolyte because there's so much small stuff that just adds up to a bigger thing for me. Like I really love the casting, the acting is great, and of course, like all the fight scenes are fantastic. But I also really like how they managed because I'm also Team Sith all the way. But I also appreciate how they managed to make me not care necessarily about the Jedi, but also be invested in their side of this bullshit that they've done.
Mm-hmm.
Where I can look at them and be
Mhm.
like, "What did you do that night?" And I'm just
Mm-hmm.
so invested on what y'all did that night. Um, and every time, like, especially with this round of rewatching, I was sure to like pay attention because I remember all the gripes people have with Amanda. But anytime May and Osha are in the same scene, I want to like pay close attention to how both of them act. And what's cool is Amanda does like a lot of subtlety in her face when she's acting that
Yeah.
I picked up on this second time around. I'm actually quite more impressed with her now than I was the first time watching.
That's what's up. That's what's up. I
What about you, Crystal?
there there's so much about this I liked, and it's a lot of the subtlety as well. And it actually kind of makes me sad that more Star Wars fans in general didn't like it, that it wasn't talked about more. Like I feel like haters are going to be haters. Like the racists are everywhere. They're in every fucking fandom. Fuck them. But I would have loved to have seen. I feel like Star Wars fans who appreciate it should have had to spend so much time defending it because it is so fucking clear
Mm,
that Leslie loves and knows Star Wars. So I don't give a fuck what you think. Like it's so clear.
100%.
Yeah, it's so clear to me that she is a great storyteller under really stupid constrictions. I'm gonna just be real with that. Like like they're fucking
Yeah.
dumb. Um,
Yeah.
my God. So I also love the sexiness of it. I love that we get. I think I wanted to see them lean into more like adult Star Wars. I fuck because if anybody should be fucking, it should be Sith.
Mhm.
So I fucking love that. You picked a great act. He was dirty, and I thought he had a tattoo. That's how sexy this man is holding his lightsaber. Like it might be one of the
Amazing.
best like Sith reveals ever. And we rewatched it last night too. My God, that whole episode where he's just fighting. Oh, it's so good. And I also want to talk about the actor who played Soul because um
Yes.
I feel like this
Lee
was
Jung Hae, I think.
yeah, he did an incredible job. He did such a fucking incredible job. I love actors that can act with their face. Look at you, Robert Patterson, can't act with your fucking face to save your life. Um, but there is especially when Quimir is fighting the Jedi, and especially Soul, and when May is fighting Indara, you see that Jedi calm versus Sith anger so clearly in their fights in a way that I feel like we haven't
Yeah.
seen it before. Like for example, in the last new trilogy we got, Rise of the Sky, I don't remember what the fuck the name is, but when Rey and Kylo
Yeah.
Ren are fighting on that ship, it's almost the opposite. Like he's supposed to be the Sith, but she's the one that's just trying so hard. And that whole fight, I thought, I mean, forget what you
Right.
think about the movie, but just that whole fight on that ship was fucking gorgeous. It was pretty shit.
Yes.
And
That was
yeah,
hot
it
as
was
fuck.
just
Yeah.
but he's just so very calm in that fight. Like she's just dishing it and he's just taking it because he's the better fighter, and that's just real. Um, and you saw that a lot in so many scenes, especially with Soul, especially in even the finale where Quimir is like just getting pissed and you can just feel his and every like Soul matches his anger. Just like there's this one scene where he just fucking puts his hands back on his lightsaber and he just settles in and you can just feel that infuriating Jedi just like relaxed, ready, knows what the fuck he's into. It's great. And I think Soul also did a great job more than other Jedis that we have seen when he lost it, like those moments where his emotions take
Yeah.
over. I mean, with Anakin, it's not I feel like it's done a lot better in the Clone Wars than it was in the prequels. No shade to Hayden. Anything that happened in the prequels is 1,000% on George Lucas. It is not on those actors. I will die on that hill.
Yeah, that is his writing
Yeah,
for sure.
that is 1,000%. Because Hayden Christensen can fucking act. Don't at me on that. So when you first meet Quimir and Soul finally loses it because Homeboy just killed Jecki. Great fucking scene, by the way. Shout out to Jecki. All that fighting, fuck. She did so good. But just when he loses it and then they're just fucking hand fighting and Soul is just beating his ass and then kicks him, and that scene where he grabs the, oh my God. How do y'all know? How are you? Oh my God. Somebody headbutted a lightsaber. We got cortosis. We get crystal bleeding. Like the Darth Plagueis. Like, I don't understand how more people are not losing their minds over this show. Like, if you love Star Wars, how you don't like The Acolyte is fucking like blowing my mind. There's just so much about it to enjoy. Even like I've got problems with it. It's not perfect. But like as just a Star Wars fan, it's not as fucking holy as A New Hope is. Let's just be real, y'all. We all love A New Hope for what it is. But when you watch that movie, them plot holes is the size of fucking Tatooine. Like it's not.
And we got to remember, like most of us saw A New Hope as children,
right?
So like it's hits a lot. This stuff hits a lot different as an adult. I sat down with my kid London, and this was probably 4 or 5 years old, and we watched The Phantom Menace, and London loved it.
Sure.
And I remember when I saw it in the theaters, I was just like, dude, I don't like this. But it reminded me of something that George Lucas said, which is like he made these movies kind of almost going back to his childhood when he was watching these, serials and was watching these adventures. And I completely get it. Like I completely understand why a 20-year-old is like, dude, Phantom Menace and all that's my shit, because that stays with you. And so, like, to your point, I think it was nice to see all this cool stuff, but also treat Star Wars fans that have grown up with it as adults.
Yes, 1,000%.
And the themes were there, like,
oh my God, betrayal. The betrayal.
Yeah, the betrayal, the themes.
The violence, our gay witches, the best mom on the fucking planet. Oh my God.
Just great stuff. Like, I'd only seen the portrayal of witches in Star Wars in the Jedi Survivor game. That came out a couple of years ago, which was cool. But like so many, I just think it had a lot of good themes. Like maybe my favorite scene in the whole thing has nothing to do with action. It's when the senator is talking to the lead Jedi, Venestra.
Yeah.
When he's talking to Venestra and he says, you'll never control it. And she says, we're not claiming that we do have control over the Force. He said, no, your emotions. And that gives you so much insight into what people thought about the Jedi. And we see a really good example of them trying to control their emotions and ultimately what that leads to. Sure. And that stuff was just really nice. It was just really nice to have.
Yeah. I thought it was too. It made me like, I didn't know a lot about witches in Star Wars either until what is mom's name? It's a beautiful name and I'm gonna butcher it.
He plays it's Jodie Turner-Smith as the actress,
who is fucking gorgeous, by the way. She has no business.
Anisha.
Yeah. Anisha? She's great. Yeah, she's incredible. One, she's a great fucking mom. I don't understand why people were so upset about gay witches. It's not like we had it's not like they was fucking. They should have been. That'd have been great. Well, there should have been a witch orgy.
Come on now. I'm like, you know why they were upset from the jump.
They were
because they exist.
Right.
Some of some of the people that were upset, I was reading their comments and I'm like, y'all, this is not the first time witches have been in Star Wars. Like, I'm thinking about the Night Sisters, the Swamp Witches, like, guys, come on.
Yeah, Pixel. That's what I was talking about. The video game I was playing. They had a whole section where you go to the planet where the Night Sisters are. I never
Mhm.
heard of the Night Sisters, and I thought that was such a cool concept to see the way somebody else uses the Force.
Mhm.
So that was
It was
like I
dope.
love the fact that they just had a coven.
Yeah, that was so
You know,
fucking dope.
that was pretty sick.
And you know what? The prequels kind of ham-fisted the politics of it, right? And not in a
Mhm.
it, in a bad way, only as in we have our critiques about the prequel because of George Lucas, right? But Star Wars is political. Don't try to
Yeah,
pretend it's not. It is. Like, bro, just what is Star Wars about? Okay. Anyway, but
yeah.
I felt like the way that they did the politics here, it was gentle almost, like it's weaved in. I thought she weaved it in very smartly, like that scene with the senator, like when mom looks so deep in his eyes and says that your ideals
Mhm.
are going to be the reason that the Jedi burn, and we're all like, damn, she right though. Like that, it
Yeah.
just goes
Much
so
more
hard.
nuanced.
Yes, it was just subtle, like all those scenes with whatever the fuck her name is. She's got a fucking lightsaber
Sinestra.
whip. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's fucking badass. That's
That's
first
crazy.
time we saw a purple lightsaber whip. Come on. Like, come on. But just all her scenes talking about the politics of it all, and like how the Jedi can't have this scandal get out because of blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? So it really, I know like some people were really butthurt because a lot of people feel like the Jedi are these like can do no wrong paladins. And I don't understand why you ever thought that. I just don't
Like,
Yeah.
understand why you
they've never been
ever
that way.
like you've never been like even in fucking the original trilogy. Let's just be real. How you gonna bring that boy into some shit and be like, well, I didn't really lie to you. I told you the truth from a certain point of view. Motherfucker, what? Like motherfucker, like
From
from
a certain point of view,
you know
that's
what I'm saying? Like for real. So like from get go, there has been nothing about anything. Like there have been heroic Jedi and individual
Mhm.
Jedi that you
Mhm.
can like absolutely team up with, but overall, I don't know how anybody looks at the Jedi and they're like, those motherfuckers is good all the time.
Yeah, they did a really good job of showing, like, I think, the hubris of the Jedi,
Mm-hmm.
thinking that they could, obviously these particular Jedi didn't come up with those codes, but they were still living by them, and to think that they could control something, I think, with like such directness as emotion.
Yeah.
And they did a really good job of showing that, and showing like any institution can be corrupt.
Sure.
Like from a certain point of view, the Sith are right,
Right.
and from a certain point of view, the Jedi are right, and
Right.
from a certain point of view, they're both wrong. And I think that was, I think when you talk about Leslie's grasp on the material,
Yes.
that I think was so cool because so many of us, even myself who's more casual, because we've had this conversation, like the Jedi are the ops.
Right.
The
Right.
Jedi are the ops. There's a significant difference between the Jedi and the rebels.
Right.
Like we conflate the two, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so the Jedi are always seen as heroes, but they in a lot of ways are the ops and make some really bad dumb decisions that lead to what we get. And I like the fact that they explored that through, especially through Soul, who's a good guy but is ultimately a person
Yeah.
and is fallible.
And is 100% let down by those ideals, because even we were watching it again and like
Mhm.
first of all, I owe Indara an apology because I think me and Pixel both were talking about that because
Right.
we thought she was going to be the problem. And then you come to find
Mhm.
out that
Mhm.
she's the only fucking adult in the room when all this
Yeah.
finally goes down. And what I liked about Soul's character, I kind of like that they made him remorseful in a way that somebody who is not a psychopath who has killed someone is, but ultimately
Mhm.
still at the end of that believes he did the right thing. Like it was completely okay for
Yeah.
him to come to this planet take two kids away from their coven just because they weren't Jedi. And that was like,
Yeah.
that last episode, like, his character arc is so fucking incredible for me because he just doubled down on it. Like, I had at least expected him to be like, I'm sorry I killed your mom, but he never even says that. He's just like, we were
No.
right. And I'm just like,
Mhm.
what? You're just like, that's how you dealt with it?
It's like a testament to how far and how deep a Jedi can bury how they feel from what actually happened into their own Jedi ordeals or ideals and
Mm.
just run with it. Because like if you're like thinking in like his perspective, like can you imagine how fucked that would be to like tear open your whole Jedi or ideals and be like, I really fucked up. Like I don't even
Sure.
know how someone like
Yeah.
him goes from there.
Sure.
Because he's like so deep in it, I don't even know what that looks like for him.
Belief is a hell of a
Yeah.
thing. You will excuse a
Mhm.
lot of fucked up shit because you think you're right. And that's a just kind of apply to any point in life. You would just do it. So, yeah, they just did an incredible job with what they had. I think
Yeah.
to your point as well, JV. That feels kind of like how we were talking about how I watch like the MCU stuff, and like, you know, you watch it as not a hardcore fan but kind of like a casual one, and then you see stuff in movies or
Mhm.
TV that makes you want to get invested in the universe and learn more about it. And I thought the Acolyte did that. I thought the Acolyte was absolutely primed to bring in a whole new audience for Disney and for Star Wars, and then they fucking canceled
Mhm.
it. So let's talk about our problems with the Acolyte, and then we need to have a really serious discussion about what the fuck is happening with streaming because I hate it. So, what,
Ooh.
Pixel, go first this time. What didn't work for you about this? Is there anything about the Acolyte you were just like, I wasn't really feeling that?
um I'm trying to find what I didn't like about it, even though I loved pretty much everything
No,
about
that's
it.
fine. Listen, if you don't have
That's
anything, you don't
fine.
have anything.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Well, my biggest complaint, I guess, probably I don't know if this is the show itself, but like sort of what JV was talking about earlier when we started is maybe the order in which the episodes dropped.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I would have reordered them a little bit. Um and probably I'm just gonna say the timer, the 30-minute timer is so infuriating because like you have so many characters in this really in-depth story and I just want to know everything. Like I want to know everything. Like even
Mm-hmm.
like little nitty-gritty details. Like I would have loved to seen like maybe like very quick flashback scenes while we're doing the main story of like little Osha trying her best in the Jedi Academy to train, even though
Sure.
she's all fucked
Mhm.
up with all her trauma. I would have loved to seen that. I would have seen like just all kinds of things I would have wanted to see if not for this 30-minute timer
Sure.
and this only 8
Yeah.
episode thing. So I guess my biggest complaint with the show is the same formula that's currently happening to all shows right now.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Because like
So that
I feel bad that I can't find anything with the actual story itself.
No, no. Do not feel bad. Do not feel bad that there's
Yeah.
something about this you don't like. That's great. I love that you love it. No, no. There's nothing wrong with that. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
JV, what about you?
I think going back to what Pixel said, I think just some of the pacing of the show,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then some of the individual choices that they made on episodes. Um, I think where episodes fell, like I think one of the things to me that hurt the pacing was having. I think the episode 3 is Destiny,
Mm-hmm.
where you're learning about May and Osha,
Mm-hmm.
the Coven, the Jedi visiting, and clearly you know that you're only seeing it from one perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I I, I don't know if was this Leslie's decision, was this a matter of timing or what? But I think it would have been really great to have the flip side of that episode where we see what actually happens right there because you I don't think you get that moment until an episode or two later,
Yeah.
and it kind of narratively feels weird because we all know that we're going back there.
Right.
Like we all know that we're going to see what actually happened, and I think that would have been a great place to put it. So there were just some like episode placement choices. I think I don't know. I'm trying to see here. I think only having 8 episodes is just not enough time
No.
to tell a
Not at
story
all.
like this.
Not at all. I think you'd be hard
You're
pressed to
you're
tell any story in depth in
Yeah.
8 30-minute episodes. Like I don't
right,
understand what we're doing.
and in TV and movies, um, like you need to show me,
Sure.
right? I think that's a great point about um the Jedi Academy, and it was OSHA, right?
Mm-hmm.
That got
Yeah.
taken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think not seeing OSHA's struggles, you just telling me
Mm-hmm.
when you have the means to show me. Um, I'm just I'm a big believer in visual mediums. When you have the ability to show,
Right.
you show it. If
Right.
it's especially if it's something really critical to the character, and that seems like it was critical to the character. Um, yeah, I mean, from what I've heard, this was originally supposed to be a 10 episode run. Um, 8 episodes wasn't enough, and I think the budget that they did it at,
It's fucking
which has
ridiculous.
nothing to do with Leslie, that has nothing to do with Leslie, but $180 million for 8 episodes of TV, and to be honest, you can't see where the $180 million went. Like
Right.
it's
No.
not super apparent where that money went because it doesn't look too different, except in a very good way, which should have said as a positive, is they filmed outside the void,
Mm-hmm.
where they film a lot of their Star Wars stuff. They filmed outside of that on actual landscape, and that looked great. Outside of that, I don't see
Like
what made
why?
this so expensive. You're talking
Mm.
about Game of Thrones late season numbers, where you're basically making episodes that are movies, and you're giving us
Half of that.
30 minutes
Right.
here.
30 minutes. There's no reason.
That's sitcom type stuff, and there's a reason. We'll talk about this more when we get to the streaming part, but I just think there's a reason why TV has worked the way it has worked, and why we're seeing certain trends. So those are the things I really didn't like. Story wise, had really no issues with it.
Mm-hmm.
Part of that is just because I'm not educated enough to know, like, oh, is this off? Is this person supposed to be here? And I don't really care about that stuff.
Right.
If you tell me a good story, then it doesn't matter. And I thought story wise, it was pretty fun. I just think it had really weird pacing problems, an oversized budget that you really could not see where that went to, and uh, just
Yeah.
too short for what they were trying to do.
You also
What
said
about you, Crystal?
I agree with all of y'all. So I don't lose it. JV, you said something earlier in our Discord chat that I thought was really true, and you said that you thought that their marketing was incorrect, that they focused too much on
Yeah.
the kind of like who is May, and it literally is something that gets resolved in like the first fucking episode. So
Right.
I think
Right.
that the
Very strange marketing.
yeah, I
Um,
don't know why that was it. I think that there could have been different better ways that you could have marketed this, because that really wasn't the mystery that we were trying to unravel. This who is May, who is that. What we were trying to unravel about this was what went down on this planet. Like what did
Exactly.
did the
Exactly.
Jedi do to cause all this? Like that was the whodunit of this. So yeah, the marketing was a little weird. It was a little
Yeah,
weird on
very
that.
wonky.
Yeah, I would love to, like, you just want to be in these rooms sometimes because you just want to hear like, why did we make that choice? Like, what the fuck? Like, why did we do that? Um
No.
so I didn't actually have a problem with the pacing. I do think, like you guys said, those flashbacks episodes, I think I would have liked to have seen more of that. But again, that goes into how long. Like, I would have loved to have seen the witches, their whole struggle, but I just found them very interesting, especially when they talk about how they almost went extinct. I would have loved to have seen that. When she talks about how, this is about power and, all that kind of, like, there was just
And
a
who
lot of,
has the right to use it?
right. I would have loved to have
Mhm.
seen if they had a clash with the Jedi before and had to escape. I thought that would have been really important. I agree with y'all too that I think seeing OSHA's struggles would have been great because I'm going to talk about Amanda in a second. I think that she did a really good job in a lot of scenes where you can see that she's really pushing down her feelings. And I think she does it in a very brilliant way because I'm also just thinking about that scene she has with Jackie where she's just talking about, like, it's not my problem. I just got to fucking go. Like, she's trying to be very stoic. But I think Amanda does a great job that
Yes.
you can just tell she is a bubbling kettle. And you were just waiting for this to fucking finally, like, however she's going to explode. Um, and I said this early on to Pixel that I thought in the beginning that she did a good job playing these two characters. I really do. But also, and to be fair to her, I have very high standards because I am part of the Clone Club. So I loved Orphan Black, and I have yet to see an actress play 7 different fucking
Let's
characters.
fucking go for
Right.
Orphan Black.
Right.
Let's
You
fucking
know what I'm
go.
saying? Better than Tatiana Maslany, right? So if you've watched
Yes.
Orphan Black and then you watch any other show where somebody's got to play different characters, your expectations are like so fucking high because she is just like, it's blowing my mind that I don't see her in more stuff, to be completely honest, because Tatiana Maslany could act a fucking door. Like, she's just incredible. Like,
She's so great.
she's oh my God, she's so fucking good. So it's not fair, really, for me to judge Amanda against Tatiana. It really isn't. And I am admitting this 100%. So where her performance kind of broke down for me was where I thought it was. And but it's not until really the final episode where now May and Osha don't have that big of a difference between them. Because before, May is very angry and Osha is very stoic. And now that we're kind of switching, May has softened up. And even Osha in her anger isn't like Hayden Christian levels. She's not like Anakin levels of fury.
Mhm.
Her fury, even then, is still a lot of just heartbreak and trauma, and that's fine. But in the last episodes, it's a little bit harder for me to differentiate between the two. And she doesn't do a bad job. It just wasn't enough for me.
Right.
But again, I have really high expectations. Like, Tatiana Maslany did so good playing clones. Like, you see her in interviews and you're like, where's the rest of the cast? And then you're like, oh shit, she is the cast.
Yeah.
So it was just like, so that, did I have any, the finale didn't hit for me. And the finale didn't hit for me because, and my beef with the finale 100% centers on Quimir. It feels like they didn't know what to do with him. It felt like he needed to be there, but they couldn't figure out a way for him to be there that made sense. Like, his motives don't, like, listen, his fight scene with Soul is incredible, but I don't understand why they're fighting. Like, that's because if Quimir is here to push Osha closer to the edge, if he's here because he wants to make sure that this lie she finds out about because he knows that's what's going to get her to him fighting Soul makes zero sense. Like, I genuinely don't understand like what he's doing there, and that throws me off in that whole. But that's it literally feels like he needed to be there, but they couldn't figure out why he was there, and they're like, well, they gotta fight because it's badass.
Right.
And I don't disagree, but again, I don't understand why. Like, I don't because Soul needed that redemption fight against Quimir so we can see that Soul has like returned. I mean, it was a badass fight. Like, if I just take away motives and I just enjoy the fight scene, come on, it's so good. But
and it's like it establishes something in Soul that we kind of already know, but it like establishes like Soul's willing to get down. Like, he's willing to get down and dirty. He's willing to to not fight like a Jedi all the time as much as he wants to say he does.
Sure.
and that was something great to show. But I agree with you. The finale felt like it was missing something,
Yeah. Yeah.
and and I guess if you want to transition into talking about the show being canceled,
Absolutely.
I kind of had a feeling that this was it, even though it was clearly like set up on a cliffhanger.
Sure.
But there was a feeling as the weeks were going on
Mm-hmm.
that I was like, okay, this is not connecting with like the general audience,
Mm-hmm.
which is something I don't necessarily think is indicative of the Acolyte. I
Correct.
think that is happening to a lot of shows.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there's something I don't know. There was just something in the finale that made me feel like, oh, this is one of those finales in TV where it's like it's kind of wrapped up,
Mm-hmm.
and if we never see what happens, then we know she went to Yoda, and
Right.
obviously that might fundamentally change some things about episodes 1, 2, and 3, and what the Jedi know or don't know. But it very much felt like, at least for Osha, as much as we all wanted to see what that was going to be like, she had made a definitive choice,
Sure.
and that choice was set in stone. Um, and that made the finale feel strange. It just makes me wonder, like, it makes me wonder what what was what parts of this were Disney,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in what parts of this were Leslie
Mm-hmm.
in the creative team,
Yeah.
because you're watching it and you know that Yoda exists in this time period, but
Sure.
I don't know about you and Pixel, but for me, I never really even cared if Yoda was there.
Right.
I didn't expect to see him,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they had done such a good job with the main characters that it didn't really matter. And so that kind of felt very like a Marvel thing that you tag on,
Right.
you
Right.
know,
Right.
the
Right.
post credits scene, even though it technically wasn't. It felt like that, and it was just, I don't know, it was just very strange. And then to have it to have it canceled, which I think everybody saw it coming, but kind of the way they did it and why they ended up having to do it, I think is the big problem across most of the streaming platforms.
100%.
I I always for the finale, I always like in my brain kind of consider it the bait and switch episode because like
Mhm.
you have everybody going back to um what's the name of their home planet? I can't remember it.
I can't remember, but
They're
yeah,
going,
home planet. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. They're
yeah.
going back.
Yeah.
They're going back to the side of the crime.
Oh, Brendok.
There we go.
But everyone's returning to Brendok for a multitude of reasons. So, like, with Sol and Quamir fighting, Sol is there to quote unquote save Osha, but he's also there to hunt May as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Hmm.
always considered their fight to be a bait and switch because Osha and May need to have it out. They need to have their time uninterrupted by Sol.
Mm-hmm.
So I always figured that Quamir was there to basically distract Sol.
Okay.
That's kind of how I interpreted it, and that's
Mm-hmm.
basically and that melts down into like a really vicious fight because of course it does, and like yeah, everything leading up after that just felt very like because they're baiting Soul the whole time. Like when May comes back into that scene,
Sure.
she's baiting him, and for Osha to hear. So the entire thing just gives me a very bait and switch kind of theme. But
I get what you're saying.
I
Okay.
do I do agree that like there was something missing. Like I would have liked to have seen maybe since we had that Plagueis reveal in one of the episodes, I would have liked to have seen maybe while Quamir is hiding from his former master because that was funny as fuck. I would have loved to have seen like maybe a small interaction that maybe Quamir knows that Plagueis is around. Something really small
Right.
Yeah.
that would have like added a lot more to that episode because then you're like, what the fuck is our boy doing?
Right. Right. Right.
Right.
Right.
um but Because for the cancellation, how they did it was really sick
It was
because
dirty.
like
They did that shit
I
dirty.
was I was reading real in depth and like everything I read implied that it was already signed for a second season because they
Mm-hmm.
invited one of the big things, like there's a whole bunch of other shit to this, but one of the big things is they invited Manny to D23. And if you're gonna do
Hmm.
that, you're not canceling. That's not a thing that they do. But after
Right.
that, and there was like a whole bunch of other shit that came to light, and there was already a writer's room for season 2, and then they dropped the cancellation real last minute, real quick. And on his birthday, hilariously, like what the
Yeah, and Eric Voss from New Rockstars on YouTube, he said he was with one of the writers on the show when they got the news, and they got the news like everybody else through Twitter. So, and they were surprised. They did not know that it was coming.
Right.
I think for all intents and purposes, like Pixel said, it seemed like they were going to have
Right.
a season 2, even if the cancellation for me, I sort of saw it coming,
Mm-hmm.
but I think just to do that to your cast and crew, and like, again, I think Pixel has a great point. Sending Manny to D23 is weird,
It's
because
so
chances
why?
are you've made that, you had
Mhm.
to have made that decision before you sent him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you had to have, and so it like gave the impression that, okay, potentially this is coming back for season 2, or maybe they're gonna, I heard some rumors that maybe, okay, it's not gonna be season 2, it's gonna be a Disney Plus movie or something. They were gonna continue this story in some form or fashion, that
Mm-hmm.
the cast and crew thought they were gonna continue it, and they heard it on Twitter with everybody else.
Right.
There was also like a lot of extra little dirtiness after the cancellation because when naturally fans of the show were in an uproar of like you can't just keep canceling shit before they have time to really build. um
Hmm.
the director was talking, well actually we knew this beforehand, but she was talking about when she was writing the script how she was inspired by certain things, and one of the things she was inspired by is she was writing the script while she was watching Squid Games. And I can't remember his name in that show, but like the actor for Soul, she saw him and was like, no, that's him right there. I need him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
she
so
saw
she
Lee
knew
Jung Hae in
from,
that.
yeah, she knew from Jump Street that she wanted him. But after the cancellation, Disney's first like quote unquote response about the cancellation was, and it followed after the actor for Soul being like, I'm really surprised by this decision. I'm hoping for the best. I'm hoping the show can come out. Disney came out and said, like, well, he wasn't our first choice. We were going to get Keanu Reeves. Like their response was like,
It's just
you
so
were second
weird.
rate, sit down. Like it felt very dirty when the
Yeah.
director herself said, like, no, he was the first choice. So it felt like very fist fighty, like sit down. You don't even like, it was just
Yeah,
robbed everyone the wrong way. It was very gross.
Oh, that's
yeah,
100%.
I agree.
I don't, and so I think, and I don't understand why decisions about streaming are being made the way they are, because we had I put it in our Discord, and everybody should go and watch this. On Miles Warden had Marlon Waynes on, and he was talking about, he's got a great clip where he's talking about TV. And we monkey see monkey do when it comes to money. Like Netflix came out and everybody was like, they was making mad money, and everybody was like, we want to make mad money too. Like you weren't, but whatever.
Right.
And then everybody wanted to be just like them, right? And so now we're in the situation where I feel, and I know Twitter isn't indicative of the whole world, but I just know, as me, as someone who loves movies and TV as much as JV does, as much as anybody else does, I am
Mhm.
done with you giving me one season of something and then you cancel it for reasons that nobody understands. You don't let anything have any time to cook. You don't give people any time for storytelling. It's like everybody likes it right now, or it never sees the light of day again. And that is not how we have gotten some of the most beloved TV shows ever. That's not, it is so indicative of TV getting better as it goes along. So, like, even all the pacing issues and things that we had, I like that she was trying stuff. You have to give creators that ability to, let's try this. Okay, that didn't work. We can fix it as the storytelling goes. Like, you've got to give creators that space to do that. You have to give them space to create. Otherwise, what the fuck are we doing? Like, what is the point of any of it? Like, Fringe, what arguably one of the best TV shows of all time, there was like a whole plot line that got fucking dropped in season 1. They were like, well, that's not gonna work. We have a whole, and it just, y'all remember like at the end of season 1 where everybody's in that room and it's Broyles and Nina, and all of a sudden it gives like a very secret society vibe when they're talking about shit, and then they never do it again. Like, Peter had a whole storyline and they just dropped that shit, like, because you just figure shit out. And Fringe is fucking great. Like, everybody fucking loves Fringe. So like I don't understand why you wouldn't. Sure, there's plenty of examples of TV shows that got on too long, that they didn't need to be 50,000 seasons, like maybe 5. But right, there's plenty of instances of that. But I feel like at the very least, I feel like if you want to tell a good story, I almost feel like 3 seasons might be the sweet spot. Like, try some shit in season 1.
Could be.
You know, like, find your footing in season 2, and then, do we still have more story to tell? As this kind of goes along. But these fucking, I don't know. I genuinely don't know who was making the decision, one, for it to have been so expensive. Like, there was, like we talked about, why it was $180 million is fucking insane. Alien Romulus was $80 million, and they also use price. So like, I don't like. That's what, if you're canceling it because it costs too much, motherfucker. Why did it cost that much? Do a second season at half that budget. Shit.
Wait, how much did you say Romulus's budget was?
$80 million for Alien Romulus.
See, this is where I'm gonna, and I guess I'm kind of veering off a little bit, but like, for funsies, I think yesterday or the day before, because I knew we were going to be doing this podcast at some point, I was like watching a lot of behind the scenes for Acolyte, and I was like really impressed by like how natural everything was, where they did a lot of like just natural environments, natural sets. They wanted everything to look as organic as possible, and that was even down to the actors not having stunt doubles. They were doing a lot of their fight scenes themselves.
Oh, so good.
And
so
that
good.
was like fantastic. I didn't actually know because I was like so invested I wasn't paying attention that hard. But I don't understand their budget because maybe this could be a different episode, because I really want to go real in depth with these budgets and possible embezzlement, because I'm looking, like you just said, Romulus's budget, and I look and I 80 million. And I remember seeing on Twitter the budget for Knives Out 3 is 210 million.
Yeah.
What is going on?
And studios will never show you, because studios like to claim that no movie ever made money, so they don't have to pay fucking taxes. And that's a whole different.
Yeah, and it's weird because those are. I love that you brought that up, Pixel, because those are like 2 different sides of the same coin.
Mm-hmm.
Like I literally think with Knives Out, that's what's my man's name that does that? Just a second. Let me
Daniel
look it
Craig.
up.
We talk about Homeboy.
Or Ryan Johnson.
The director Ryan Johnson.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that's just Ryan Johnson's way of like, hey, you guys bought this right in your Netflix and you have money, so I'll take it. Which is going to help him finance some of the other things he wants to do, because obviously you don't need $210 million for a Knives Out movie,
right?
They
don't.
Right.
You
yeah,
don't.
you don't. You're that to me is Ryan Johnson, in all honesty, pimping the system and being able to like get his money so he can go make
whatever he wants.
His own. Sure. He could go make Looper again and do all this other stuff.
Which is a great movie. Looper's a great movie.
The budgets with, I mean the budgets on streaming have been quite large. Not just Disney, but I know the budget on Halo was quite large over on Paramount Plus. Um, the budgets are kind of out of control, and I understand that a lot of this is IP, and a lot of this is science fiction and fantasy IP,
Mm-hmm.
and so you're paying for VFX. Um, but it's kind of crazy because the I mean, there was good quality VFX, but just from the standpoint of like, I would too, Pixel, love to see like what's the breakdown on it,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
because ultimately, here's the thing, as we start to talk about streaming, ultimately most of this stuff is a loss for most of these companies.
Right.
Outside of Netflix, nobody has seemingly been able to reproduce the success that Netflix has had.
Right.
Like they just haven't been able to do it, even though they have bigger IP
Mm-hmm.
and they have major movie stars and producers and directors and showrunners.
And even Netflix is
Very
making
few.
stupid decisions now. Continue, Dave. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
yeah, even like I
Yeah.
feel like it was almost like the .com bubble. Like you came in as new. Netflix won. Okay, let's just give them their props. And
Yeah.
now I feel like
Yeah.
even they are having trouble replicating their own business model to any success.
Yeah, to a certain degree, it's certainly changed from what Netflix wanted to do, and I mean, part of what Netflix wanted to do was replace TV, or replace the the TV viewing experience that we had.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they come out of the gate with Orange is the New Black, and the Kevin Spacey joint,
Oh, House of Cards.
I'm forgetting it, House of Cards,
Yeah.
which was their first one. It's a great first season of TV.
Mm-hmm. That was excellent.
Um, they're sort of like they're sort of following like A&E's footsteps with Mad Men and Breaking Bad, and having these protagonists that really aren't great people but are really compelling
Mm-hmm.
and making really good TV, and they figure out that hey, they have a whole bunch of stuff licensed from studios, and they can also make their own stuff.
Right.
And people will pay a premium for their own stuff if it's really good. And so you get Stranger Things, and you get
Mm-hmm.
you get these shows um that do really well, and then you kind of get the bloat
Mm-hmm.
of, and it takes a while for Netflix to get that bloat, because they invest in movies,
Mm-hmm.
they invest in serious filmmakers, because they know the easiest way to get people to come back is like, oh, Netflix means quality as well. It doesn't just mean content.
Right.
Doesn't just mean content. It means like original Netflix programming means Emmys. It means Oscar nominations. It means like you're coming to get something. Um, and they also figured that out too. And the streaming companies that have come behind it, I think fundamentally fail to understand what made Netflix work, which is the the idea that you could just go on and watch your TV.
Mm-hmm.
Like the first big things that were hits outside of the originals on Netflix were just old TV shows,
Right.
because people want to watch Friends, they want to watch Seinfeld, they want to watch whatever it may be
Mm-hmm.
from the 80s and 90s, right?
Sure.
They're good old reliables. You can sit down and relax to them.
Yeah. Yeah, they're comfort food.
Right.
And Netflix was like, "Oh, well, we can do reruns too, and we'll just do them here, and we'll have people subscribe to the service," and it worked. And here's the thing: even though a lot of their content is all over the place now,
Mm-hmm.
they've done like really smart things. They have a lot of reality.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of crime docu-series,
Sure.
things that don't cost that much money.
Sure.
So when they want to go and make Stranger Things 5 and make every episode a movie,
Mm-hmm.
they can do that. They're investing in sports. They have NFL games this year. WWE is coming next year.
Oh shit,
So
that's smart.
essentially, Netflix is like, we're basically kind of going to do what cable did,
Mm-hmm.
and Disney and Discovery, Discovery Max, Paramount, those those streaming platforms with as much great content as they had have made so many mistakes that it would take, another hour in this episode to go through those mistakes. Like
Right.
H why would you take HBO off Max? Why would you take literally why would you
That's your
take that off
brand.
the
That's your
name
brand. That's
when
literally your fucking
HBO,
brand.
yeah, we see HBO, right? And HBO immediately connotates Sex in the City, The Wire, The Sopranos. You know that you're getting quality
Mm-hmm.
shit.
Mm-hmm.
Weird decision. Weird decision. And you also have people on linear television, on cable, who still have HBO.
Right.
So, very strange thing. Disney, perfect example of they made scarcity. They made scarcity work for them.
Oh yeah,
Remember
they
when we were kids and
Disney
things
Vault.
used to go the Disney Vault, right?
Yeah.
And you could only
Oh
get
my
that thing
god.
for a limited amount of time.
Right. And then it went to the
Well,
fucking
what
vault.
Disney
happens?
Vault.
What happens when you can watch it all the time?
Right.
It becomes it inherently becomes less valuable,
Sure.
and they all tried to fill with content, and so far only Netflix, even though I think they're doing too many shows,
Mm-hmm.
like
They
way too
also
many
need to start
shows.
letting some things cook. Cause some of their
Yeah,
I
they
mean, and
got it.
people are getting
They
kind of
have
pissed at
to.
them. You gotta like, I get it. You gotta try to keep up
Yeah.
with everybody else at this point. But I feel like Netflix has the opportunity, if they're making all these other smart moves that you were talking about, JB, they have the opportunity to be the one streaming platform that works, and you can do that by
Hmm.
actually letting shit cook. Like, let
Yeah,
Disney fuck up eight
which they have.
30 minutes episodes and
In
then
the,
fuck off. And then you guys
mhm,
be the one that give me 5 seasons of the show that I actually fucking want to watch. Like
right.
let that be the model or whatever the case may be, and then they can figure out whatever the fuck they're doing over there.
Yeah, that's a big part of this, and it's funny during the pandemic. The show Suits from USA
Mm-hmm.
got more popular than it had ever been during, I think, its 8 seasons of running.
Mm-hmm.
What is Suits? It's a law show.
It's just a law show, yeah.
It's a genre show, right?
Yeah.
We know there's an overarching thing that's going on with these main characters, but it is like case of the week,
Mm-hmm.
like doctor shows, cop shows, law shows. Yes, they have characters. Those characters grow, but it has a beginning, middle, and end,
Sure.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And it has 22 episodes a season
Yeah.
to watch the characters grow
Yeah.
over the course of these case of the
And you
weeks.
can pop in anytime you
Supernatural.
want. Right.
Exactly. Supernatural is a perfect example of this.
Mm-hmm.
Went on too long. I love Supernatural, but it's a perfect example of like it's a monster of the week,
Sure.
but we're learning about Sam and Dean and their relationship and the bigger lore and all those things, and you get several episodes to establish these characters. And what happens when you get several episodes to establish a character? You start to fall in love with characters.
Sure. Yeah.
You start to root for Sam and Diane in Cheers because you've seen them over the course of 40 episodes,
Mm-hmm.
and the will they won't they.
Right.
The same thing with Friends, even recently New Girl. And Crystal, you said something I think that's so key. Pilots. Having a pilot,
Yes.
allowing a show to find its footing and
Mm-hmm.
therefore find its audience. If you watch the New Girl pilot, it's okay.
Yeah.
But as you go on in that season, and the actors start to find the rhythm, and
Mm-hmm.
they start to find their
Mm-hmm.
chemistry, and the writers start to find what the voices of these characters are like.
Yes.
The pilot is completely different than the series
Then it's
finale.
100%.
And you've now grown your audience. And I remember you told me, you said, JV, are you going to watch The Brother's Son? And I think I got one episode into it. And you know what I did, Crystal?
What'd you do?
I stopped. I stopped. And you know why I stopped?
Why'd you stop?
Because it was interesting.
Mhm.
And I said to myself, I'm not going to watch another interesting show and then have it be canceled.
Yeah.
I'm just I'm not doing that. Like
Right. Yeah.
I watched it and I was like, "Oh, this is a really good show.
Mhm.
I'm not going to get my heart broken again by having a show that I like." And that has
Yeah.
honestly stopped me from watching a lot of things where I'm like, "Hey, I know what the deal is. We're either going to get one season,
Mhm.
we're going to get two seasons. One season, like you said, if it's not in the top 10, every night
Right.
for however many weeks, we're
Right.
not getting a second season. If we get a second season, we're not likely getting a third because
Mhm.
it costs too much to bring the cast back.
Right. Which is
Costs too much to be the showrunner. Now you have cast members who want production credits and they don't want to pay that money. And Netflix can get away with that because they have everybody else's content.
right.
So if you don't watch The Brother's Son, you might still go back there for Grey's Anatomy
Right.
because it's there,
Right.
all 20 seasons of it.
Right.
In the streamers, I don't think have that ability. Like they have all this IP,
Sure.
they don't know what to do with it,
Nope.
and a lot of it is like, is Star Wars still special?
Mm.
If Star Wars is still special, if you have a show every other month about it, and the shows, some of them are very mid,
Right.
or you don't get a chance to like sit with these characters.
Right.
Like it's been 2018 since you made a movie.
Right.
What are we doing?
Right.
Like we were talking about in the Marvel episode when I popped on. Why hasn't there been an Avengers movie? You
Right.
made all these shows about characters people don't know, and you made it because you needed to fill hours of content,
Mhm. You're
and
making shit for the
you're
wrong
making
reason.
it less special.
Right.
Yeah, you're just making it less special.
Yeah.
It's like,
Especially
so
for...
when that oh, go ahead, Pixel.
Oh no, you can yeah, don't lose your
I
thought.
was just gonna say, and sorry, I'm like super passionate about this.
No, we should
But,
be because we fucking want good TV again.
yes, we want good TV, we want good movies. I think what happens is when you have something as I'm just gonna be honest, when you have something as boring as Boba Fett,
Mm-hmm.
or you have a season 3 of Mandalorian that is incredibly meandering,
Mm-hmm.
then you're teaching the audience that this is what to expect. And when you get something like The Acolyte, while not a perfect show, but has things that are different
Mm-hmm.
that people want to see, it's not the racists and the incels that are preventing people from seeing that show.
Mm-hmm.
It's the quality of the shows that are becoming before it. And people are like, well, this is another Star Wars show and I don't want to watch this.
Right.
I just don't have the time or the capacity for it. Looks interesting. Maybe I'll catch it. Maybe I won't.
Right.
I think that's the main reason for the streaming numbers on the Acolyte. It has nothing to do with the show itself. It has everything to do with the shows that came before it and just diluting the product. You're
Right.
stepping on the product every single time and you're teaching people this stuff is mid. And then when you get something that's interesting that pushes the boundary, nobody is there to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Can't do that.
You can't. It's true. It's true. And you can't keep spitting on people who actually come in and watch your shit. And now, I mean, there were so many Star Wars fans that I just saw that are just fucking just disheartened. You broke their heart
Mhm.
because so many people got excited about Star Wars again that aren't Luke Skywalker fanboys, that don't really, there's certain things they just don't give a fuck about. And then we finally got a breath of fresh air. You did something new to make the base to make people hype again after how divisive the last three movies were. And they just were. Like, people had their favorites. Like, JV likes The Last Jedi. I can't stand that movie. I'm mid about Rise of Skywalker. I thought Force Awakens was fucking phenomenal, but that's a whole different, we can have a whole different discussion on how they fucked that up. But after all of that, then you bring out these TV shows and stuff. And it's like JV said, it's just like, why am I going to give you my time when I know that I'm going to love something and then you're just going to take it away? We never had that problem before. You never had that problem before. I could sit down and watch a TV show, and the worst thing that will happen, that shit'll go on too long, or they'll fuck up the ending. But you still watched because you got a whole, you got time to be invested. Like, the CW show The 100 is such a perfect example of something that just got better the more they did it. The best seasons of that show happened outside of season one. Literally, like you said, characters found their footing, character arts changed, characters in season one that you were like, you're fucking sucker, now like my favorite fucking character. Like, you got time. And these fucking streamers are acting like they don't have time or money to make good TV anymore. And I'm just like, no, you're just fucking greedy is what the problem is. You are letting bottom lines affect storytelling, and it's fucking failing.
And that's the problem. The problem is they're greedy. Like, here it is realistically. They don't have time. They have to make hits because they decided to try and be Netflix instead of
Y'all just need to take
trying to be them. Like, there was a point that Disney had a deal with Netflix, and Disney movies would come over there. And I know we're working in shorter release windows now, like 3 to 4 months, sometimes less than that, depending on how well the movie does. But eventually, you could count on seeing a Marvel movie on Netflix. Yeah. Or the Cars movie that was just in theaters. And in 4 months, it's going to be on Netflix.
Sure.
That sort of made sense.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that made sense. You're Disney. You don't have to do any of the legwork of building a network, building the infrastructure for the technology, doing all of these things.
Right.
But they saw what Netflix was doing, and greed is ultimately what is making these streaming services have these issues, and they're pumping up so much content. Again, we don't know what's good and what's bad. Like, Netflix is having this issue. They have so much original content that it is very hard to determine what is worth watching.
Right.
You just don't know. You're kind of just like, you're just guessing.
Yeah. We do that all the time. We just randomly will just watch something, see if it'll catch my attention. Yeah, and you're right.
Yeah.
You're not like hyped about anything anymore. Like, it used to be like, oh, some new shit's coming out. I gotta watch that, because they build up to it, and that you're gonna get time to, like, I don't know.
And the release cycle is crazy.
Right.
The release, like, Stranger Things came out 2 years ago, dude.
Right, bro.
2
Where
years
the
ago.
fuck is Stranger Things? And I know the pandemic affected a lot of that, and the strike and all that. But even so, like.
But even before that, right?
Sure,
like, even before that, we were still waiting 2 years. Like, the idea of waiting 2 years between seasons, like, I'm a firm believer that you have to innovate change, right? You absolutely have to.
Right.
TV works the way it works for a reason, and it worked the way it worked for 75 years.
Right.
Because that part of the system wasn't broken. Were hiring practices broken? Yes. Were we getting diverse voices? No. There were things that absolutely need to be changed.
Sure.
But maybe we didn't need to change 22 episode TV. Maybe we didn't need to look at The Sopranos and be like, okay, I get it. We can make a prestige drama and it can only be 10 episodes. No, you're not fucking David Chase. You're not making The Sopranos.
Right.
You're not making The Wire. Like, those are exceptions to the rule that work for that network. Right. And have set an expectation. Everybody else is trying to figure that out, including these networks where 8 episodes?
Right.
8 episodes is not enough.
No.
Then it's a movie. If it's 8 episodes, then it needs to be a movie.
Correct.
Like
Correct.
you're doing too little, and streaming is just watering down. Uh, I think it's watering down the content we're getting, and it's making it really hard for us to find things. And I find myself, I'm watching The 100 right now. It's network television. I'm in season 1 of The 100.
Hmm.
I watched a CBS procedural about fire prisoners fighting fires in Northern California. It's called Fire Country,
Uh-huh.
and it's just like a drama with firefighters. And I'm like, why am I watching this? But it's so formulaic that
Right,
it
right,
is
right.
comforting,
Sure.
and also like, okay, I know this is getting a season 2 or season 3,
Sure.
so cool.
Right.
Makes a difference.
It absolutely does. And I think you hit the nail on the head too, JV, that they took the wrong lessons from Netflix. It wasn't that Netflix is so great, now they make everything Netflix. It was Netflix is doing
Mhm.
what it's doing and it's scratching an itch. Like I loved getting able to binge TV shows. I loved being able to watch whatever the fuck I wanted to watch. I've got ADHD. It gives me dopamine. I love that shit. Um, I love no fucking commercials. Okay, because my
Right.
Jesus fuck, nothing takes me out of a story than fucking I'm watching something I'm really invested in. Now I'm watching some shit about bounty. Like I don't give a fuck. So there was a lot of, you know what I'm saying? Like it was a lot. There was a lot
Yeah.
about Netflix that I thought, it's great and it worked. But you're right. They really did take the wrong fucking lessons from Netflix,
Yeah.
and they were like, well, they made it, so now we can do the same thing. And like, no. Like,
Yeah.
no. Just do
It's
what you do
difficult.
bet. Like you're fucking Disney. You are nobody was going to ditch Disney. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
yes, Netflix was here, but nobody was going to say, well, I don't watch Disney no more, bro. I'm just watching Netflix. Like, nobody was fucking saying that. Like, everybody
Right.
still wanted Disney to do Disney. We just had Netflix too. You gave us choice. We knew what we could expect going to Netflix, and it was awesome, like you said, that we got some Disney shit. So, as far as I'm concerned, some of the best Marvel shows have been on fucking Netflix.
Yeah.
like, like
Yeah.
like WandaVision and Loki, like aside, which I think are outliners because you just let those fucking cook, and they're great, and it's just great storytelling. But again, I didn't watch season 2 of Loki because I didn't give a fuck. I didn't give a fuck about that character. Like I didn't
Yeah.
give a fuck.
That's fair.
The first
And
season was great.
also,
Yeah,
again, another show that took 2 years to come back.
right.
That's not the way that's not the way that collectively we've been trained to watch TV. And also, I think when I look at London,
Mm-hmm.
London's going to be 13 in 2.5 3 weeks.
Right.
The content, the content London consumes primarily on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
It's really not even on TikTok. It's primarily on YouTube. Like they I think they have a problem on their hands, they being the streamers. Maybe Netflix less so, because again, now they're getting into live sports. Live sports makes a lot of money. They're getting into live events, which are something that the other streamers are doing to a certain degree. But I look at that generation and I'm like, hey, things are going to look a lot different for them. And I don't think you're catering to the generation that grew up primarily on linear and cable TV.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think you know how to cater to the generation that's growing up on YouTube.
Right. So you're just pissing everybody off and then being mad that you're
So
not making money.
yeah, what are you gonna do? Right? Like at some point this is gonna break. And again, Netflix gets to exist as this thing because it, for all intents and purposes, it is streaming.
Sure.
It is streaming.
Right.
The other companies that invested so much money into this without asking, does anybody want this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, just to be fair, does anybody actually want the things that we're offering? And I think for a large part of it, while there's some really, really good stuff on each of those networks, Star Trek Discovery on
Mm-hmm.
Paramount,
Mm-hmm.
um, the Fresh
But even that
the
got
Fresh
5 fucking
Prince
seasons.
remake. and that got 5 seasons.
Right.
And by the way, it's not the most popular show, right?
Right.
But they knew to stick with it, and you can
Yes.
tell the quality of the show gets better. You know, you Michael Burnham changes
Hmm.
during the show, and you like those changes, or maybe you don't like those changes, but you're invested in the characters, right?
I feel like
Um,
that needs to, don't
yeah.
lose your thought, JV, but I feel like Star
No, no,
Trek
no.
Discovery needs to be the model because here's why. They were like, we know, and babe, you can speak to this about Trekkies. He's like, that showrunner, Alex, he knew, he was like, we're going to make this. All the little incel fanboys, what the fuck ever, they're going to be real pissed off about it. And it's going to take time for people to be invested. And I got lucky that I actually got to go to a panel with him and the cast. My very first one. It was so great. I fucking cried. It was great. Um, and he even spoke about that. He was like, we knew. I did not care. He's like, I was going to make this because he knew that other Star Trek had gone through the same thing where when it first came out, everybody was like, this isn't Star Trek, blah, 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 blah. And then you gave it.
Bullshit.
Right. You gave
Sorry.
it. Right. Sure. Sure. But he was like, there was another Star Trek that kind of had, he said that had some of that hate. And I don't know if that's true or not, babes. You can tell me. But he's like, there was another one that people did not like when it first came out. And now everybody is like, it's the best fucking Star Trek ever. So he just knew. He was like, we're going to do what we're going to do. And I'm going to tell this fucking story. And I don't give a fuck about the haters.
So like something I really want to like touch on. It's kind of like a point you made previously, JB, about the specialness of Star Wars, and
Mhm.
any like Star Wars fan is probably gonna hate me for this current spiel I'm about to go on.
Go
to,
on it.
but,
Do it. Let's go. Hot takes.
Because like you said, that like if you keep making mid shows for Star Wars, is it still special? And like fucking, I think, and you guys can correct me because you're bigger Star Wars fans than I am, I think, but part of what makes Star Wars so special is all of its just rich lore and like rich characters and everything, and how
Yeah.
all the previous movies, like maybe not the new trilogy, but the other ones always brought something new, kind of new to the table, something fresh that you could watch and be
Mhm.
like, "Oh, that's interesting." But now like no, none of it is special, but like I think part of what made the Acolyte a bit more unique is that like it brought something new to the table, brought something fresh. We hadn't seen it before, and I think that
Time
is
period we hadn't been in
yeah,
before.
the time period we haven't been in, and I think that contributes to like what is or was special about Star Wars. Now, my something I believe that Star Trek does better than Star Wars overall is the fresh and newness. Um,
Mhm.
Will not disagree.
the
Yeah.
what you were talking about, that director Alex, about another Star Wars show that at first brought in a lot of hate. I think that was probably Deep Space Nine.
Hmm.
That's what
Deep
I would
Space,
guess.
yeah, Deep Space Nine is personally my favorite, just for nostalgia's sake. As much as I love Discovery, I think Discovery overall is the better show, but for nostalgia, I love Deep Space Nine. But my God, it would not have survived in this current fucking streaming era that we're in now, because I like to use it as an example of a show that got its shit together real quick, because
Mm.
the pilot episode opens with a bang. You see a Federation fleet getting their shit rolled by one singular Borg cube. So you begin with that, and then it starts to relax a little bit. Then you start lore building, and you're learning about who these characters are, really quick succession. Then
Mhm.
everything after that episode is kind of like some lore, but then you have some odd fillers here and there, so you don't really know what's going on. But then finally, when they find their footing and they have that arc, that Dominion War that they're going through, and they get their shit together and they launch right off of that, I that's like such a good example of what it is to let a show breathe and keep going. So I'm like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
mm. And it got
Mhm.
It,
so good so fast. And
that's an ingredient. Like time
mhm,
is an ingredient on these
mhm,
shows. Like I think so. I think in the Acolyte discourse, um, and with a lot of these shows, I think um, so much of the discourse has been around like the toxicity of the
Mhm.
fan base, and I think the Star Wars, in particular, the Star Wars fan base, I don't think is majority representative of the stuff we hear online, but you know, what's the saying? The squeakiest wheel gets the grease.
Mhm.
They're the loudest and most vocal often in spaces that a lot of us are just like, dude, we just want to watch fucking Space Wizards, bro.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
we don't care. We love to see it when they look like us,
Mhm.
or they identify as our gender or
Mhm.
our sexuality. That stuff is great because you want to see yourself on TV.
Mhm.
But first and foremost, we want a good show, and then we don't give a fuck who you put in there
Mhm.
because all those things aren't necessarily a part of their character. Like they're part of their character, but they're not a part of like their main thing, right?
Right.
So I it's stupid, but you know, races are gonna races, incels are gonna incel. They don't want to see women. They don't want to see gay people. They don't want to see trans people. They don't want to see people of color. They don't want to see any of us there. Like, oh well, too
Mhm.
bad.
Right.
Like, suck my dick.
Right.
Like, we're here. We're not going anywhere. The world looks more like us than it does like you. But I think so much of the discourse, and I wonder how much of it, you know, the corporations like is like, oh well, it's woke, and this isn't surviving because it's woke, and that's just not the truth. It's not surviving because you guys don't know how to market
You don't know what the
that,
fuck you're
and
doing.
because you keep making really bad shows, and we get great showrunners like Leslie Headland who comes in and does something new, and because she's within this system, she gets penalized because you guys don't know how to market and you guys don't know how to make other good shows that act as lead-ins. I mean, like, lead-ins don't exist. That's another thing with TV. Like, there is no friend Seinfeld that leads into ER anymore.
Right.
Remember those Thursday nights when we were kids and it was like must see TV?
Sure.
That doesn't exist,
Right.
right? So you would have Seinfeld and you would have Friends and then you would have ER and then you would have whatever else in that 3 hour block. And those
You were
shows
invested. You
were,
sat down for that shit. You was
yeah.
present.
And even if you didn't like the show, right, you might stay around for the first 10 minutes.
Right.
And if you stay around for the first 10 minutes, you might stay around for the whole hour.
Right.
Like they would certainly lose viewers, but the idea of a lead in doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
So then how do we advertise our show?
Right.
And I think the thing that I constantly hear from people is, well, it's because of the wokeness. It's because of the wokeness.
That's not it.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
That's a narrative.
Mhm.
That's a narrative. If it was because of the wokeness, Grey's Anatomy still wouldn't be on. Black Panther wouldn't have been a hit.
Correct.
Like it is like it's been proven.
Mhm.
The more diverse your cast is, the better off it's gonna do.
Correct.
Like that's just a fact.
Right.
So it really comes down to fundamentally not understanding that TV has been TV for a reason, and there's certain things that still work on linear TV, on CBS and Fox and NBC. There are certain things that still work. The Office is a prime example, and I've not seen The Office,
Mhm.
but I have friends that love this show, and they tell me all the time. Michael Scott, the main character, the boss, was very, very unlikable
Mhm.
in the first part of the first season.
Right.
And he grew to be incredibly lovable over the course of time because they could hear it, you know, they could hear it from the audience, they could see it. They were like, ah, this doesn't work, let's change this.
Mhm.
And I would have loved to have seen an Acolyte where we get 2, 3, maybe 4, 5 seasons of 10 to 13 episodes
Sure.
where we get to see these characters and we get to see their complexities, and we just didn't get to see that. And maybe that's what, going back to what you said, Crystal, that I thought was like such a brilliant call out, that might be why that performance at the end of it is kind of so like not as dynamic as the rest of it, because we're not getting to see Amanda Stellenberg like have those layers and have those nuance, because now this is a different OSHA.
Mhm.
And what does it mean
Mhm.
that she's doing this? And unfortunately, we'll never know.
Right.
Like we'll never maybe some way somehow
Mm-hmm.
they bring it back, but I think it's just so symptomatic of where we are um with creativity,
Mm-hmm.
how we're stifling creators, and how we're just not doing things that work. Sometimes it's good to change, but sometimes the old things work because people knew what they were doing.
Right.
And we got to figure out how to get back to that so we don't have more acolytes. This is incredibly frustrating, and I think Leslie Headland is a really really great voice. And I hope
100.
this is not the last thing
100%.
that she does. I hope that somebody else sees it and sees her and says, "Hey, let's either let her do her own thing
Mm-hmm.
or give her some other IP that she's passionate about
Yeah.
and let her cook."
Yeah.
Because it certainly is not the fault of the crew or the cast. That is on Disney.
Mm-hmm.
And as I say that, I'm seeing commercials for Mufasa coming out in December. We're just in such a weird, dumb place. In such a weird, weird, dumb place that it just doesn't make sense.
I've really grown to hate remakes because like they feel like just such a disrespect to animation and that
And
art form.
they're so lecherous because you don't have to do anything else, right? Like you made the Lion King. It exists.
It's amazing.
So now
People love
instead
it.
of paying those creators,
Mm-hmm.
like instead of paying the people who wrote it, you're just basically going to rewrite it because you own the IP, you own the story, don't really have to have anybody do anything different. Like this is this is where we are. So
We are in the
I,
dumbest timeline.
we really we really are. Like I understand sequels work, but do we need another fucking Jurassic World? Do we really need another one after we just had 3? Like I don't think so. But here it is. New pics of Scarlett Johansson on the set of Jurassic World dinosaur fucking Boogaloo. Like what are we doing?
let's let's take this last little bit of time here and talk about how we would fix it if we ruled the world. Because I see a couple of different things that I want to happen, that I want to kind of put out in the universe. And
What you want to see?
yeah, and you know what? Number one, I want to see. I would love it if some of these. I want greed out of the equation, okay? Because I want these big corporations to realize when you have enough fucking money, and I want these creators and these big corporations to realize that if you personally don't want to take the risk, then I need you to ungrip these IPs and let other people take a shot, even if it's on their own dime. I want to see Disney get less upset when somebody makes this incredible Star Wars thing on YouTube. I want to see instead them reach out to them and be like, hey, this was awesome. Let's talk about it. I want to see more of that happening, because if you are too scared to let shows cook, then fuck off and let's let fans have a little bit more fun with these things, and let's see what happens from that, because maybe you could learn something. I want to see I want all these smart people who sit around and think about marketing to understand that it is now 2024 and there is no reason for 90% of marketing to still center around cis white men. Why you don't understand how to market to everybody else that exists in these fandoms is fucking blowing
Mhm.
my mind. And this is also primarily like, because when I look at, like, just for example, legacy metrics, I know that women love Star Wars. I know this. But
Yeah.
Spotify is not showing my audio drama to women. It's showing it to men. And it's really interesting
Mhm.
to me that it's not sliding in. And I know that that exists for a lot of marketing, a lot of it. It's
Yeah.
not catered to the diversity that we are now seeing, right? And then like when it is, you as owners of that IP are not stepping in and being vocal and protecting your actors, and that also has to stop. Because somebody made a very good point on Twitter that if you're just not a white guy, why the fuck would you ever accept a Star Wars role? Why? So many of these actors and actresses, they're canceling. They got to get off of social media as soon as they get the role because people just shit on them. And it's almost like the vitriol that you get from accepting this. And then on top of that, you just cancel my shit it doesn't
Right.
like why is it's almost not worth it. So I feel like these, especially if you're somebody big like Disney, what do honestly like I really want, what the fuck do you lose by coming out and saying, hey, all this shit that y'all are doing is not cool. It's not the kind of community we want to foster. It's not the fan base that we want, like whatever. Because listen, it doesn't make any business sense because those assholes weren't buying your merch anyway. They're not investing in these
Exactly.
shows. Like even if you
can't please them.
you can't please, you literally cannot please. Like even if they come out and they fucking say like, hey, you're Disney and you're like, hey, fuck these incels. This is our whoever. We stand behind Reva, like whatever. We stand behind them. And then they're going to boycott for 10 minutes, dog. And then you're going to put something out and they're going to fucking watch it. They're going to do their little fucking performative shit. They're going to buy a flag. They're going to buy your merch just to burn it. That you still gave, good job. You gave them money.
Great.
Great. Do it. Sure. Okay. It's free marketing. Yeah. Buy it, but then burn it. Super smart. Like just let them. But there needs, I feel like these, like you need to make a stand as to what type of communities that you want to foster around these IPs. It can't just be just let the discourse happen, because there's a whole big difference between the discourse that we are having right now that real fans have and y'all letting these incels run actors and actresses off social media. And so like the patriarchy and the racism at the top, I want that shit gone and figure out how to market to everybody else.
And it's like every time too, with each
Every
new like
time.
Star Wars thing, it's always a new actor that's first time at a Star Wars thing getting fucking destroyed on social media. And like also just really know who that audience is, because like the people who adored Acolyte, you would be hard pressed to find a more loyal fan base that will follow you to the end of the earth for you to make another thing so we can watch the Sith fuck and all that fun shit. But like the other one that you're bowing down to, all the incelies, they're not gonna be pleased with anything you make. It doesn't matter.
Right.
So you're
You
literally
put
wasting
one
your time,
person
you're
of color
wasting
in
money. Yeah, they're automatically pissed off.
They're
Like,
out.
I was telling Crystal the other day how I was laughing because it's sort of off topic of sort of like kind of what we're talking about. Is a game that I play a lot is Final Fantasy 14, and this latest expansion had a lot of drama around it, particularly with the voice actors. Mainly because one of the main characters is voiced by a trans woman. And the director of like Square Enix and Final Fantasy 14 had to come out and basically yell at all these supposed fans of like, stop attacking our voice actors. It's not okay. We don't want you here. Leave. And I was reading this article of what Yoshida said, and I'm just like, why are you as a video game director having to do more for your actors versus Disney has ever done, ever, as a huge company?
Right.
So just say it. Like literally just say it. Defend these, market to and let shows cook. We need 13 episodes of something. You cannot be afraid to let shows find their audience, especially on streaming, because people watch what they watch. So just because it's not popular in the first 90 days doesn't mean it will never be. And if you can't figure out how to make that business model work again, go back to fucking TV, bro. That's it. That's all I got. That's all I got. But indies, let's go. Let's go, indies. Let's go. I feel like this is a great opportunity for smaller creators to fill these voids, because until these big, conglomerates get their shit together, we're not going to get it from them. And I'm done waiting. Like I'll just go find some good content made by somebody else, and then that's it.
And it's proven that indies make it, because Everything Everywhere was an indie production. Their budget, I was actually corrected because I thought Everything Everywhere's budget was about 25 million. It was not. It was 14.5 million.
Let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Incredible movie. JV, what you got?
Um, I think to Pixel's point, I would like to see less budgets in some of these shows because I think that forces creativity um, that used to be in traditional TV. You'd have something called a bottle episode. And I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that. You're familiar with the bottle episode?
No, what's the bottle episode?
So a bottle episode is basically when they've kind of run out of money, and so the episode takes place in one room.
Love it. Love it.
Oh my god, that's
So
awesome.
Love it. Love it.
a a really good example of this is, I forget the episode, but in Supernatural, I think it's season maybe 13 or 14. Everything is shot from the vantage point
That was a
of
great
the
episode.
bar.
I know it. I love
Yeah.
that fucking episode.
Every-
we were
That
like
was
this-
my
Everything
favorite
shot
episode.
from the
From
point
like
of
a
baby,
go
which
cam.
which is the Impala.
from like a dashboard cam. That was fucking a great
Yeah,
episode.
you don't see a lot of stuff there because it's just shot from that perspective. That's a good way to do a bottle episode. Another episode like this, which I guess is sort of debated, but won't parse that here, is Fly from Breaking Bad, which just has Walt and Jesse cooking in the meth house. They never leave it, and they're trying to chase this fly, but it allows them to have some different dynamics in their relationship,
Mhm.
and it furthers the story. So I think decreasing the budget, I think, makes it easier to have more things come out and puts a lot less pressure on showrunners and writers to think that they have to have a monster hit,
Right.
because a lot of the stuff that we love in TV they weren't monster hits. They were just things that were on for a long time.
Sure.
I think the other thing, I think, speaking to the diversity point, if you look at what's happening with the NFL right now, right?
Mhm.
This is part of this is the Taylor Swift effect. Women are watching, women are watching football,
Mhm.
and they might be coming for the romance between the pop star and the football player, but they are staying because they're getting to know the game. And guess what the NFL is doing? They're leaning into it.
Right.
Despite last year, men on social, I'm tired of seeing so many shots of Taylor Swift and all this stuff, but the game is going to grow
Mhm.
because now a lot of those women have decided, oh, I'm actually a football fan, and oh, guess what? The NFL's catering to me. The NFL is going to show these stars, but they're also going to put more female analysts on,
Mhm.
and have more female hosts of shows.
Mhm.
And now you see that women are like, oh, I like this. So I think absolutely, invest in diversity, because it just makes sense. Like, why would you cut yourself off from money? It just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And like you guys said, the incels, they're gonna be there,
Mhm.
and they're gonna be super loud because that's all the fuck they have to do. I honestly can't think of a project that has really been affected by whether or not the toxic fan bases come out for it. Maybe the Marvels, but even then, it had a lot of things going against it
Right.
that had nothing to do with that segment of fans. Um, so yeah, I would definitely keep investing in that. Uh, the other things I would do, they kind of go hand in hand, and I don't know if this one can be done. I just think knowing what shows should be binged
Mhm.
and knowing what shows should be week to week.
Mm.
Because I think, like, the Acolyte is a very good example of this. I think that show works a lot better if you binge it. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason is the episodes are so short.
Yeah.
And so while you do want to build anticipation when you can, if you're going to make episodes that short and you're going to have such a short run of only 8 episodes, make that something that you can binge. On the other hand, something like the Three Body Problem on Netflix, which I think is great,
Mm-hmm.
they made it bingeable
Mm-hmm.
and the buzz was over in a week.
Right.
So instead of being like Game of Thrones, where every Sunday for 8 years people were tuned in because they had to see this thing and it became a water cooler discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you don't have that anymore. And so I think they should play around with that format and try to figure out what makes a binge release, what makes a weekly show, what things should be a movie.
Mm.
I think we're talking about a completely different thing with Tatiana Maslany and She-Hulk if She-Hulk is a movie. And
Mm-hmm.
you're like, "Hey, we have to just put more budget into this show to get the Hulk to look right."
Right.
Like just
Where they
just
should have
play
spent
with
money and
that.
they didn't.
Right. Right. It's kind of like you're spending money on certain things that don't make any sense and you're not spending on money on things that do make sense. And the last thing is if they could get back to some sort of live programming, lead-ins work. There's a reason why I think one of the fundamental problems is there is no programming.
Mm-hmm.
And because you are not programming things, you don't have a natural kind of flow of what you should be watching, which is why so many people get choice paralysis. Is
Mm-hmm.
so many things on, you can't
Mm-hmm.
choose what to decide. But also, it just makes sense for you to have a show that has a particular audience that maybe feeds into another show.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that works. That's worked for years. And I don't know if maybe we're too far past that because that just goes back to linear TV and cable. I'm telling you right now, when people wanted to disassemble cable, this is not what they had in mind. Like this crazy fact. John McCain was actually in support of this. The late Senator
Mm-hmm.
John McCain. John McCain basically said, "Hey, why do I have to pay for ESPN if I'm not watching it? Right? Why can't we make cable piecemeal? So if I don't watch Hallmark movies,
Mm-hmm.
which I do, because okay, Christmas in June, let's fucking go. I'm all about a Hallmark movie, baby. Um, so I watch Hallmark movies, but I don't watch Fox News.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Why should I pay for Fox News?
Right.
Right. So kind of that idea of cable a la carte. I think the streaming services looked at that and were like, "Oh, we fundamentally misunderstood it." So those are the things I would like to see change. I think some of them can happen, some of them might be too far gone, but I think it would be nice.
JV, I love your insight because my brain's just going woo. It's great. Now I've got like 85,000 ideas for tales. Babe, wrap this up. Tell us you're in charge. What are you changing?
I want to go back to the format of banger pilot, weird first half of a season, interesting last half of a season, whacked cliffhanger at the end, killer second season and on. I miss that
Mm.
format so
I want
fucking much.
filler episodes. I want
I
fucking
want the
Yes.
filler
fillers back.
episodes.
If
Fuck
there
yeah.
were
Bring back
ever
filler.
if there were ever like fucking kings and queens of using random ass fucking filler episode, it was fucking old Trek. I don't know what they were fucking smoking a lot of the time when they made some of these episodes, particularly looking at you, Voyager, goddamn. But I want that formula back. I want like 15, 20 episodes a season because I'm greedy. I want 45 minutes minimum. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
just need that back because I miss being invested. I miss learning about these characters and not even like story propelling ways. I want to know what their fucking favorite color is. I want to know what food
Mhm.
they hate. I everything like that. And I'm tired of to quote Kamir, why are we loving people I can't love as deeply as we can?
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, Pixel, I don't even think they're filler episodes. I don't think they like the idea that there's filler episodes in TV. I understand where it comes from, but there's not, because just like you said, get character growth. You're still
It
spending time
is.
with the characters.
Right.
My favorite fucking episode of Next Generations is, I think it's called Picard's Day, and this poor bastard who hates children had to give a tour of the ship to these rich people's kids, and it ended up in a power outage of the Enterprise, and he's stuck in an elevator with these 4 kids trying to get them out. And that's basically the whole damn episode, but it's my favorite one because it's so like character building.
I love that.
It does nothing for the rest of the story. It's just so hardcore filler, but I fucking love it.
Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go.
Gosh, who thought character would be important in telling stories?
I know.
Crazy.
Wow.
It's crazy. It's fucking wild. Last thing I will say is I feel like niche fandoms should stop being overlooked too, as well, because if you've got a group of people that are going to go hardcore for you and always show up to your events and always give you money and always give you, like, it might not be 25 million, but if you've got 1 million people who love your shit, I feel like that needs to be counted as a win. So
Yes.
stop trying to cater to everybody so much anymore, because I feel like there's a small, I mean, not even small, but like a subset of people who are diehard fringers, diehard orphan blackers, you know, like diehard. They've got these things of these shows that they just absolutely fucking love. Firefly, you know, shit like that, that we were just like, yes, we were invested in it. And maybe it didn't hit for the whole fucking world, but why does everything need to? You know, like,
Right.
like define that. Like, sure, you know, especially if you're like these big companies that you've got all this money, like, sure, you're gonna have your big successes. Like you said, Netflix is going to like, and I know you gotta go, JV, so we'll make this quick. But Netflix is going to like wrestling and sports, right? I hope that they don't lean like EA sometimes tries to lean, where now everything's going to be that. You know, let that give you money to do other shit. So you know that you've always got that bottom line. That type of shit is always going to give you your cushion. I feel like that's the way to go. So you don't have to worry about investors or your third quarter reports or whatever. If you're making $1 billion off of like all this other shit, then let us have all this, like, let your, you know, be that spot where then, you know, when I'm done wrestling, I get 21 episodes of fucking Evil, which is a ridiculous show. It's ridiculous. I fucking love it.
I would let Mike Coulter do the most horrendous things to me.
Come
I'm not
on.
even gonna lie.
Evil is the dumbest fucking show, and it keeps happening, and I love it.
I love Kristen. It's just so yeah. I might even like Demon Kristen more. That says something about me. No, Crystal, I think you're. I think you're spot on. Because occasionally, what is niche actually becomes mainstream.
Sure.
This is how we get Iron Man. Like people forget. It's a B, C, T character. Nobody knows. Marvel Studios is an independent studio technically at the time that is distributing through Paramount, taking a risk on Robert Downey Jr., who had several legal issues and issues with substance abuse.
Sure.
Took a risk, made a moderately priced movie, and it turns out that the comic book geeks weren't the only ones that would like comic book stuff.
Right.
Game of Thrones, great example.
Sure.
I don't care about sword swinging and dragons and all that stuff. That is not my thing. Much to our friend Devin's chagrin. I just
right.
It's like a hard barrier for me.
Devin, watch Battlestar Galactica. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah,
He
like,
still
it's one of
hasn't
the
seen
fucking
Battlestar
best
Galactica.
TV shows of
All time. Like,
ridiculous.
He's ridiculous.
But Game of Thrones is like, it worked. It worked on me, and it turns out it worked on the whole world. Right? That is genre and niche as fuck. So like sometimes when you just let the niche thing exist, you don't know what you're gonna get. You might get something that is like the behemoth that you've been looking for, and it just so happens that it's Stranger Things, and it's just two brothers making a show about teenagers in the 80s and the 80s movies that they liked, basically.
Right.
And it just turns out to be a worldwide phenomenon. So
Let it cook,
yeah,
you guys.
I think Crystal, that's sage wisdom on your part.
Thank you. Thank you. I think some video games. I think you could. I think TV can learn from video games as well in that regard. Baldur's Gate 3 knew who their audience was. Did not give a fuck. I feel like Dragon Age, Bioware knows who their audience is, and when they get the freedom, does not give a fuck. Among Us is a great example. Among Us was this tiny niche thing that nobody fucking knew about, and then all it took was one person to be like, "Yo, check this game out," and now all of a sudden it's like everybody is like knows who the fuck.
You just never know where the hit's gonna come
You just
from.
never know. So just like anyway. Anyway, fucking fix your shit. All right, listen up,
That's
nerds.
basically what this episode has been. Stop
Fix your shit.
fucking it up.
Literally, stop.
Jesus Christ.
Let us hate your last season again. Shit, just give us one.
Let us bitch about your last episode, please.
Right, please,
Yes.
God.
Let me bitch about a weird direction a character went in on this one filler episode, please.
Yes. Give me just a weird just give me Law and Order SVU, because who doesn't love Detective Olivia Benson and everything that she goes through and the will they or won't they? Just fucking give me that. Because you know what? We like that shit. And you could even do that in genre. You can put that into genre and it still works. And what the fuck are you doing? Like, the three of us are going to punch you in the dick.
Give
The
me
collective you.
That's it.
give me the drama of a random fucking breakup in the middle of a season that I'm just clawing at my
fucking
skin of why the fuck y'all break up. I want the same energy that the whole Ross and Rachel debacle caused. Like,
Give me Castle. Give me that shit. Give me
Guys,
that.
I was so fucked up over Fire Country. I was like, bro, this dude Bodie, he's trying to do good time, and I'm like, what the fuck? I'm invested in this shit. You know, he's falling in love with the chief's daughter, and I'm like, let's fucking go. Like, it's not hard.
Right.
It's hard, but it's not hard.
Right.
it's not.
God, that's so we miss it. Anyway, give us a fucking $180 million. My fuck. Just give it to us. Just anyway.
We won't make anything. We'll just abscond with it and go
literally.
somewhere private.
Yeah, but eventually I might
We're just telling.
after I've
once
taken
we're
a
all settled.
nap. I might then I'll
We're telling you that up front, though.
Yeah.
We're gonna take this 180 million, and you're not gonna see us again until Crystal is like, okay, guys.
Let's go. We ready? Everybody rested?
Yeah.
Let's go make some shit. Okay. Right. We are the Listen Up Nerds podcast. If you like this type of content, these types of discussions, then you should definitely follow us over on Twitch and over on YouTube. Just give us a like, thumbs up. Be more loud than the incels. Fucking please. Let's show a lot of love to everybody in the Acolyte. Talk about what you love. Talk critically about what you don't like. That's totally fair. It is totally fine to do that. Fuck these incels, big companies. Y'all are greedy. Stop it. You're gonna go bankrupt and whatever. Indies, let's rise up. Let's make some good shit. Fuck these streaming services. We know how to do it better because we know what's up. And that's it. I don't know when we're gonna be back. We just get on when we've got shit to talk about. I don't know when we'll be over on the podcast networks, but eventually we will. But until then, you can find us on YouTube and Twitch. Anybody else got anything to promote before we roll out?
Go to Tales of the Forgotten. Listen. Put on some shit while you're driving, while you're exercising, while you're chilling.
Absolutely that. Absolutely that.
Talk loudly about the things you love.
That's it. Tell them. Listen up, nerds. We out. Bye, you guys.
Go Cowboys.